I got to tell you, anyone that's questioning whether or not the Ravens are all in right now, I'm questioning you and your thoughts on where things currently stand with the 2025 Baltimore Ravens amid free agency, just over a month out from the 2025 NFL draft, and of course, everything else that's going to take place over the course of the next several months as we work our way towards football season. Welcome inside the channel. I'm Bobby Trosset, as always. This is where I bring you Baltimore sports and beyond. This live stream is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. You can find more on them in the show notes, and I'm going to tell you about them in just a bit. I appreciate you guys for being here. Some big news and a big decision made by the Ravens front office. And yet again, they are working within a very confined window, right? A very tight window, and that is a Super Bowl window. They are attempting to keep their roster as currently constructed, right, intact for as long as they possibly can. And when I say their roster, I'm not talking about all 53 men, right? I'm talking about the core units of this team. And with that, decisions like today, or at least what was just made clear today by friend of the show, Brian McFarland, Ravens salary cap analyst, that's exactly what they're doing. You guys should be excited about this move that was made surrounding Marlon Humphrey and his current contract structure. So let's get into it. Dive right in. Brian McFarland at Ravens salary cap on X just over an hour ago. The Ravens have done a max restructure with Marlon Humphrey by reducing his $18 million salary and roster bonus to the league minimum of $1.255 million. And he converts that to over $16.7 million to a bonus, right? Converts over $16.745 million of his $18 million salary that he was set to make in 2025 to a bonus. Let me be clear. I see a lot of people online that are thanking him and showing him love and whatnot. This isn't a pay cut. It's a restructure. It also isn't an extension, which is notable because that's what we've discussed in recent weeks. That also is an option for the Ravens front office, whether it be Lamar, whether it be Derrick Henry, right? Lamar, of course, at the top of that list, that would free up significant amounts of space right now in the short-term future to be more cap friendly for them in 2025. That's not what this is. This is a restructure. And as you see on the screen, as Brian McFarland scooped here, they're just converting over $16.7 million of this year's salary, of Marlon's 2025 salary, to a bonus, right? A future bonus to be awarded to Marlon. This isn't a pay cut. What's also notable is that league minimum number of 1.255. Yeah, that's going to create a decent chunk of change for the Ravens. To be exact, over 13 million. 13.396, as Brian puts it here. That is newfound money for a cap-strapped team that's been acting as if it's cap-strapped, because it is. And they've been very, very diligent, Eric DeCosta and his front office, in how they've gone about making these moves in free agency, including retaining their own, like a Ronnie Stanley, like a Patrick Ricard. And you know the numbers there. For Ronnie, a franchise left tackle, with the use of void years, his 2025 cap number will be just over $5 million. Pat Ricard, one of the most important pieces that makes this offense go, I want to say the cap number is just over $1 million, if I'm not mistaken. So again, this is notable. And Brian McFarland has also been keeping up with things just in terms of his overall 2025 effective cap space outlook and the numbers that go along with it. The current salary cap right now for the Ravens with this move, with respect to this move, is over 10.3 million. But again, there's a lot still left to be determined here. These numbers don't yet include Tylan Wallace and the new special teams ace, Jake Hummel. They also don't include, well, okay. So Michael Pierce's retirement is not yet reflected in these numbers. He also mentions that he's using the full $5 million for DeAndre Hopkins, but he's suspecting that it's going to be less due to void years. Again, you seeing the theme here? What was once a non-negotiable for the Ravens has become somewhat common, whether it was using void years for Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract, void years for Nelson Aguilar, void years for Ronnie Stanley. And again, what are void years? It's a way of kicking the can down the road. These bills will come due, but for right now, you're operating in all in mode. Let me keep as much of this talent pool intact as long as I can while we're in this prime window. Because we all know, and if you don't know, just go remind yourself by looking up Lamar's contract details. His cap hit just over $43 million for 25. 26, that thing skyrockets to north of 70. This is a prime window right now of not only being in Lamar Jackson's prime and at his peak. Maybe we haven't seen it yet. We'll see. Still in his late 20s, hard to believe. So not only are we in that mode, but just the way that this team is constructed and where certain players are in their contract lifespans. Think about the tight end room, the deepest room in the entire team. Every single player in that room is entering a contract year. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler, and add Pat Ricard into that mix as a fullback. So that's where things currently stand right now. Remember, Ronnie's deal, 3 years, $60 million in terms of base value, $44 million of which is guaranteed. But there are void years. And here's the breakdown. 28 through 30, that's void years. That cap hit you see on the upper right-hand corner for 2025, that's for a franchise left tackle, over $5.8 million. And as you can see, that number steadily rises as the years go on. The Ravens are telling you right now, without actually coming out and telling you, that they are willing to set aside some of their organizational philosophies when it comes to team building and how they manipulate or handle the cap, because they feel like they are in win now mode. And I think it's pretty damn obvious. They are absolutely in all in mode, and they should be, because you have no idea when this period of time faces an expiration date. That could be due to injury, that could be due to circumstance, that could be due to what's going on around you in terms of AFC elites. We know how fierce and mighty the competition is in this conference. We know the murderer's row of quarterbacks. We don't know how long the Ravens will be in this unique window of opportunity. And that's exactly where they are right now. And I think that's exactly why you're seeing them handle business the way they are. My co-host over on the Vault, Sarah, checking in, commenting that this is a massive restructure, referring to Marlon Humphreys. Not just $1 million or $2 million opened up, but $13 million plus from one contract. Spot on. And with DaCosta doing void years for more contracts, including Ronnie and now Marlon, as I mentioned off the top, nobody, sounds like I'm going to be Jack Harbaugh. Who's got it better than us? Nobody can accuse the Ravens of not being all in this year. She also goes on to write the following. Lots of people asking what move is next for the Ravens with this money. Sarah says there might be one, but the money has essentially already been spent. Big picture, all these cost-saving moves are being made to keep their Pro Bowlers and all pros together for another bite at the apple, which is what we've been discussing the last couple minutes. If not for all these void years and restructures, they'd have to let a few of their top guys walk out the door, including Ronnie, spending money you don't have is, quote, all in, regardless of whether or not it's your own top player or outside players. So that from Sarah. And of course, we'll get into this more coming up tomorrow in our noon show. By the way, DeAndre Hopkins will have his introductory press conference as a Baltimore Raven coming up tomorrow. And D-Hop's tweet from 2020 certainly has garnered a lot of attention since he signed with the Ravens earlier this week at the NFL Honors event back in February of, what would it have been? February 2020. Here he is with Lamar and Derek, and his caption, which, this has gotten plenty of run this week. How many touchdowns would this trio total? Time will tell. But this is the group right here. This is why you're in this temporary window of opportunity. A two-time MVP, a future Hall of Fame running back, a budding young superstar in Zay Flowers, a grizzled vet that feels like he's got more to prove in D-Hop, that contested catch-winning 50-50 ball guy, perhaps a red zone threat, great culture for your locker room. Somebody who's coming off a breakout year that you decided to extend this time last year, and it's looking like the biggest bargain in all of the NFL in bait. A player who I'm sure feels like he has a lot more to prove given the heartbreak of the divisional round game, but he is coming off a career year, at least in terms of single season touchdowns, and that's number 89, Mark Andrews, perhaps his final year in Baltimore. And of course, the future, somebody that you would absolutely expect to get the Ravens extension money that they're allocating for the tight end position, Isaiah Likely. That's not including Keaton Mitchell. That's not including Justice Hill. That's not including an above average offensive line. And however they choose to retool and round out the rest of the wide receiver room. We know Tylan Wallace has been re-signed. Devontae Walker is going to have a chance to show that he's got more to prove, and I'm sure they'll draft a day 3 wide receiver to compete. But this right here, what you're seeing on the screen, is why the Ravens front office is acting the way that they do. Super chats, and I shouldn't say the way that they do, the way that they are in this current moment, which is not desperate, it's urgent. There's a sense of urgency, and because of that, because of this window that they find themselves in, they're willing to kind of move aside from some of their practices, their best practices from a team building perspective, like the usage of void years with a number of these contracts that's kicking the can down the road and allowing them to keep things intact right now. They have everything they need. I've been saying that for weeks, if not months. They have everything they need in Baltimore. It's time for those pieces that they need, that they already have, to go and execute when the lights are bright. Sea King, King of the Seas, says restructures are more player friendly. Correct? Not necessarily. Restructures are, look, the reality is restructures are not pay cuts. I think that's really what it comes down to. I think it's misinterpreted at times. C. King also writes, Bobby, would you and Sarah ever consider being guests on Marlon and Jack's podcast if they invited you? The Vault energy might mesh with theirs. Love Jack Saddleman. Good buddies. Gotten together a couple times with him out of the content space. So yes, the answer would be an absolute yes. If that opportunity presented itself, of course we'd be down for that. And if we had Marlon on the show, it was awesome. Marlon came on the show for what, like over an hour on draft night last year, which reminds me, start hitting us up with some of your recommendations. Who do you guys want on this year's draft special? You know we're going to be live all week long, all weekend long. So appreciate you, C. King, for those super chats, and appreciate you guys for being here. Over 700 of you concurrently watching right now. And here, again, example, however many here, of why you're trying to keep this thing intact. Jamison Hensley noting that Lamar, DeAndre, and Derek all in the same roster, the Ravens are going to become the second team since the 1970 merger to open a season with three-time All-Pros at quarterback, wide receiver, and running back. Who do they join? Just the 2005 Colts, who had Peyton, Marvin, and Edgerrin. Not a bad group. Not a bad group whatsoever. And sure, is Deontay, gosh. Do not misspeak with Deontay Johnson, Bobby, please. Is DeAndre where Marvin Harrison was at that point in 2005? Probably not. But the exciting thing is, and I think what I'll continue to reiterate, the Ravens don't need DeAndre to be the player who he was in the past, and they aren't paying him to be the player he was in the past, and that's the beauty of it. If he shows flashes and shades of who he was in the past, guess what? That's gravy. That is gravy, and they're going to be clean living because of it. Today is brought to you by PRMI. And if you're looking for ways to make your home buying process even more affordable and convenient, look no further. My friends at Primary Residential Mortgage are excited to share an exclusive offer that can help you achieve your dream of owning a home. And I got to tell you, one of the more gratifying things of building this channel is when I hear from you, my subscribers out there, that are either buying homes through Primary or cashing in on different incentives that we have available to you as subscribers. I mean, that's awesome. If I can help you guys in any way and through my brand sponsorships, that to me is a major win. So here's what's going on. Primary is going to give away and is giving away $100 gift certificates toward closing costs for qualified applicants. This means that you can save on one of the essential steps in the home buying process, which of course makes it easier to achieve your home ownership goals. In order to redeem your certificate right now, you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen in that graphic, or just click on the link that I have in a couple different places. One, at the top of the show notes in the video description, or two, in the live chat as a pinned comment. The certificate itself is valid for 90 days from the date of receipt. The offer itself ends May 1st of 2025, so don't miss out on this opportunity. Take advantage of this limited time offer to save on your home buying journey. PRMI is the equal housing lender, NMLS 3094. As we always tell you guys, when you support our brand sponsors, you are supporting us, and it certainly goes a long way. So thank you to Primary Residential Mortgage for the continued support of this channel, and let's keep things moving. This was supposed to be on the screen, by the way. I totally botched that. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That QR code that I just referenced, this is what it is right here. So I'll keep it up on the screen for a second. And while I do that, I'll drop the guest lines into the live chat if you'd like to say hello on this late Thursday afternoon. Guest line link incoming now. And again, apologies there. If you're interested in redeeming your $100 gift certificate towards closing costs, scan this QR code right now, or again, just hit those links in the show notes or in the live chat as a pinned comment. Guest lines are open. We've got over 800 of you concurrently watching today. I appreciate you guys for being with me. Tomorrow, the Ravens are going to hold a 1:30 news conference. It's the introductory press conference with D-Hop. And then at 11 a.m. on Monday, they're going to hold another press conference for left tackle Ronnie Stanley, offensive coordinator Todd Monken, and of course, interim, I guess now full-time offensive line coach George Warhop. So that'll be exciting. And of course, Ronnie is here to stay for at least the next 3 years. As for D-Hop, Eric DaCosta releasing this statement earlier today through the organization's Twitter account. Quote, "We are happy to bring DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens. D-Hop is a player whom we have competed against and admired for a long time. He fits our style of play and is another weapon for our offense. We are excited to watch him play and congratulate DeAndre and his family." Elsewhere, Tylan Wallace. There's a guy in the live chat that's probably going to start jumping up and down. We're talking about number 16. He ain't going anywhere. Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, noted that the Ravens and Thailand are in agreement on a deal. He's staying in Baltimore, and he'll have a chance to compete for wide receiver 4. Of course, Devontae Walker going to try to make the 53-man. Last year's 4th-round pick out of North Carolina, and I would not be surprised. I fully expect them to draft another receiver, maybe a day 3 receiver that ends up competing on the back end of that room, and perhaps they keep 6. The deal itself, again, very modest to keep Tylen around Baltimore. Over $2.2 million if he hits incentives. And as we all know, he had a career year for his standards. No disrespect. 11 receptions for 193 yards. Again, very modest, but clutch, right? He's a willing blocker, and he is clutch. Of course, we all remember the 2023 walk-off punt return touchdown against the Rams at the bank. I don't know how he stayed in bounds for that. That was insane. What about the 84-yard touchdown reception against Cincinnati, also on the left-hand side at the bank? There's something about Tylen's ability to stay in bounds and just rock it down the sidelines. Of course, that ended up becoming his first 100-yard game throughout his career. Lamar loves him. The fan base loves him. You're going to have a chance to see Tylen Wallace in purple and black for at least the next year. Congratulations to one of the good guys for getting another opportunity and a modest contract extension to remain a Baltimore Raven. You know he's fired up about it. He tweeted this last night, a couple photos, that contagious smile, and he said, Ravens flock, let's run it back. And that's exactly what the Ravens are trying to do. Run it back, which is why they're acting the way that they are in terms of team building. The usage of void years, contract restructures, perhaps an extension that could be on deck in the future. All with the intention of trying to keep this team as currently constructed intact for the foreseeable future. Another example of that, and perhaps a minor gamble. The Ravens and Ardarius Washington, their safety, their former undrafted safety, have had extension talks but couldn't agree to a deal, according to friend of the show, Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic. So they could have put $5.346 million, which is a second-round tender on him, that would have gotten them a second-round pick had Ardarius signed an offer sheet elsewhere, and they didn't match, but they opted not to. And the reason why? Savings, and perhaps, again, a calculated gamble here. So let me tell you what we're talking about here. This decision by the front office saved them over $2 million. So in the grand scheme of things, you're probably thinking to yourself, $2 million in NFL terms, what the hell? And you'd be right, but at the same time, they're looking to save and crunch numbers as much as they possibly can. And more importantly than that, much like they were well studied around the market, well studied in business, when they gave Lamar Jackson the non-exclusive franchise tag that allowed him to see what was out there, I think they feel pretty confident that nobody's coming in here and stealing Ardarius Washington. And it's with all due respect to Ardarius. When you think about the safety position, Ardarius is an outlier. He's 5'8", $180 on a good day. And I say that as a 5'8", $170 dude on a good day. Okay, the weight doesn't fluctuate, but depending on what I wear on my shoes, on my feet, yes, that will fluctuate. So if I'm going on a first-time Hinge date and she says she's 5'8" on my profile, which I also say, you better believe I'm wearing my Skechers that give me a little bit of a boost at the bottom. That's just how it goes. I wasn't gifted in the height department, guys, and nor was Ardarius Washington. But you know what he does have? A lot of heart. That's what I tell him, too, when I'm on my dates. Listen, I'm a sub-6-foot white dude, but I got the heart of a lion. I got the heart of a 6'8", 300-pound right guard by the name of Daniel Fa'alele. A Pro Bowl alternate. Somebody who at least got one vote for an All-Pro. Okay? Ardarius has that. He wears his heart on his sleeve, the tenacity of somebody who does not realize at any given moment he plays like it's going to be his last snap. How about the hit on Joe Mixon Christmas Day? How about Pat Fryermuth? Ardarius Washington put a hit stick on a tight end against the Steelers. He's got a knack for the football. He plays fearless out there. And without Ardarius, I don't know if the Ravens would have truly been able to stabilize their secondary after week 10 the way that they did after they benched Marcus Williams. With all of that said, given his injury history, given his undersized measurables at the safety position in the NFL, I think the Ravens were willing to take this calculated risk. Yet again, another example of how the Ravens have found a way to crunch some money. Chris Board left in free agency this week. He went to the New York Giants. Malik Harrison went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Notable because those two guys, respectively, were number 1 and number 2 in special teams snaps logged this past season. Chris was the special teams captain, a special teams ace. You're looking at his replacement right now, Jake Hummel, former Rams linebacker. I'm sure maybe he'll get some run at linebacker should they need him. But what they really need is him to perform as a reliable special teamer because they're going to be going younger in that group. Hummel is 26, had 8 special teams tackles in 2024 for LA, and also had a splash play, blocked a punt that led to a touchdown for the Rams. Your Chris Board replacement. Obviously, inside linebacker is an area that they will need to address in the draft. It is paramount that Trenton Simpson takes a big step forward in development this year because you better believe he's going to have a major opportunity right in front of him with both of those inside linebackers departing in free agency. They revamped their coaching staff defensively. Tyler Santucci is now the linebackers coach. Mark DeLeon is on his way out. Roquan, of course, is back for another year. And I would love to see that development from Trenton Simpson, both against the pass and the run. I expect him to be well studied. I expect him to be drinking from the fire hose for how he can take advantage of his third year in the league, which will really be his second chance. Because first year we just saw special teams for the most part because PQ was still in Baltimore, and we know that Trenton was drafted to be his replacement, which is ultimately what was supposed to happen last year until he was demoted. Because let's be honest, I think a lot of Roquan's deficiencies last year, particularly in that underneath pass coverage, was due to the lack of continuity from his running mate there in Trenton Simpson. Jake Hummel, your newest Raven. And a Raven no longer, which was inevitable, of course, is Marcus Williams. He has been officially released. He was benched in November, as we all know. And you got to go back to 2022 when the Ravens dumped a bunch of free agency money at number 32, a 5-year, $70 million deal. And 3 years later, he is on his way out. Look at what quarterbacks recorded. Take a look at the passer rating. 148.4 when targeting him. This was inevitable, unfortunately, for Marcus. I wish him the best. I'll lean on what Jimmy Smith told me in season. Didn't see a lot of want to. Didn't see a lot of desire. Not sure what his health status was. Not sure how he felt about what Zach Orr was doing or where they were at schematically. The harsh reality is none of that really matters. He wasn't good enough. He was benched. He handled it, at least publicly, really well. He never really spoke with reporters. But there was no public spat. He was a professional about it. John Harbaugh said as much during his end-of-season press conference, and Ardarius Washington took the opportunity and ran with it. Speaking of opportunity, I wonder if this guy's going to get an opportunity to be Brandon Stevens' replacement. We know Brandon was able to test the market out. Got a nice deal from the New York Jets. He'll be lining up across from Sauce Gardner, which is clean living, boy. He's going to be the beneficiary there. But TJ Tampa has a birthday today. Happy birthday to the rookie, or at least the recent rookie, the second-year player, rising sophomore, if you will. One of their fourth rounders out of Iowa State. That's where Jake Hummel played. I wonder if they know each other. That's also where Charlie Kohler played. How about it? Bunch of Iowa State dudes lining up. What are they, the Cyclones? Am I getting that right? I think Iowa State's the Cyclones. But, look, all you hear, you haven't heard much about Tampa. He had the double sports hernia procedure at some point throughout training camp, which really sidelined him and put him behind the eight ball when it comes to trying to find his way into the rotation last year. But I'll lean on what Mel Kiper had to say. Certainly felt like to me during one of Mel's recent segments that he's hearing, I don't know, I think he likes this TJ Tampa player. And I had a chance to have TJ on my show right after he was drafted. I think it was actually last summer, early on in the summer. He's a business-like cat. If he gets an opportunity, don't be surprised if TJ makes a nice little jump here. Obviously, a lot of this is maintaining health, right? Barring good health and barring availability, but I'm encouraged. Big MP called it a career this week, Michael Pierce, after 9 seasons, 7 of which were in Baltimore. Michael Pierce on his way out. Got on a podcast yesterday and with Matt Forte and officially announced his retirement. So, yes, Travis Jones is the future, but it's a really deep defensive tackle class. So I expect the Ravens to be active in the draft. And try and bring more much needed depth into that room. Speaking of depth, they went from not having any depth to at least one player in their room. So that's exciting for Pittsburgh. Mason Rudolph is going back to become a Steeler. Second stint. Spent last year in Tennessee. Mason, I'm expecting to be their backup. I would think it's going to be Rodgers or Russ, or I don't know what they would throw at Atlanta to try and bring Kirk there. They're picking too far back in the opening round to get a true, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I mean, Jackson Dart could be there. Quinn Ewers could be there. But it's a 2-year, $8 million deal for Mason Rudolph. And now Pittsburgh waits and waits and waits and waits for the Rodgers train. What kind of track is that train running on? I have absolutely no clue. If I was him, I'd be picking between Pittsburgh and Minnesota. I would probably give the edge now that I think about it. I've referred to Pittsburgh as the most attractive option all week long. But if I'm Rodgers, I'm looking at the NFC as being much more open than the AFC is. I think I might go with Minnesota. They've spent a shit ton of money in free agency. And, of course, he'd be throwing to friggin' Justin Jefferson. So, I mean, that's pretty enticing. Malik Harrison's a Steeler now, like I mentioned. How come there isn't an uproar about this the way there was PQ last year? I know why. 1, he's not the player that PQ is. And 2, he's not nearly as vocal as PQ is and was on social media. Am I correct on that? I think so. Congrats, though, to Malik. He's a do-it-all kind of guy. The Ravens are going to know him, and they're going to see him quite often. DreDog679 hit me with a super chat. And he writes, not you wearing Skechers on a first date, Bobby. Please set up a life coaching session with me. Dre, what is up with the Skechers hate? You've seen my Instagrams, haven't you? They're clean. These things are clean. They may not be flashy. They may not be expensive. They may not be designer. But I look good in those damn things. Just because of that, Dre. I might make a segment on quick hits tomorrow with Sarah because of that. Appreciate the super chat. I can't wait to put that $5 towards my next pair of Skechers. C King, another one dropping in a super chat is Wade on the practice. Yeah, Dayton Wade's on the practice squad. Had some of the best college tape I've ever seen. Also, Vault members, meet up this or next time you come to Florida. Well, C King, look, first of all, remind me where you hit me up. Was it Instagram, email, whatever? What was it? Because I would love to get a drink with you next week. I'm going to St. Pete this week. I'm chasing a girl. We're going out in a boat with my cousin. What a shock. I know you guys are so shocked about that. But C King, remind me where you hit me up. I would like to get together with a drink for a drink next week. And there's actually a couple guys. DM, okay, he emailed me. C King, DM me on Instagram at Bobby Baltimore. Because there's a couple guys that we can get together too. I know C-Max is in the area. A few other guys as well. Guest lines are open. I want to get your thoughts on today's news, which is Marlon Humphrey's contract restructure. Here's the guest line link right here. Just dropped it into the show notes. We'll go down to Mexico City or Houston, wherever this guy is lurking in the shadows. What's up, brother? How you doing, man? You are muted at the moment. Good to see you. What are your thoughts on today's news?
Can we get CJ back?
Oh, you want CJ back? Hey, I mean, look, I feel, I don't know. I still think he's going to get paid, man. I still think he's going to get paid as Tilly makes her way into the back of the freaking stream. Watch
She's
this.
like,
Look
no.
at this. Tilly, stop it. She's been jumping in the pool every 2 seconds. Like, I literally have to pay attention to her every move. But might just be my uncle who's getting home in a minute here. But so, all right, you're interested in CJ Mosley.
Yes.
You're not confident in Trenton.
No, it's just too much right now. Like the reason, and we saw it the whole last year. He's not ready, and even with Harrison, with Board being ready, we needed speed that Trenton had, but obviously they don't have. So at least Mosley still has some of that speed, but I think it's more so like, hey, I know the Ravens playbook like in and out, and I can teach you easily if Roquan is not available. So on that department, that's why I want him. It's like, yes, Trent needs to go there, but it's. Do you remember Peanut?
Yeah, on Owasu?
Yes, it's
I
like
do actually remember. Was his final year in 2019, I think?
yes.
Yeah, I think he was I think he was on that 2019 squad.
I feel like Trent is it's like Peanut on that year, that it was just too much on his plate. He wasn't ready, and we needed to bring shit. I forgot. Who was it that we brought back from the
Josh Bynes.
Yeah, Bynes. That we had to bring him back in order for him to actually learn behind Bynes. And then it was just like, hey, we just depend on Bynes right now because Peanut, even though he left because of the contract, like his contract was up, but still it was like you didn't respond as we thought you would. So
CJ's 32 now. He'll be 33 in June, as will DeAndre Hopkins. So they're the same year. CJ's coming off an unavailable year. He played just 4 games, started in 3, but prior to that, he was pretty much a clean slate. He did opt out of the pandemic year, 2020. 2019 was a wash as well. He played in just 2 games. That was actually his first year, notably as a Jet. His last year as a Raven was 2018. I'm a huge fan of CJ. I think they need to get younger at that position. I still think he'll command probably more money than they're willing to give to that position, being that they have Roquan on the books for a hefty number. And I think that whether it's the latter half of free agency to bring in some competition there for Trenton to push him, or a day 2 pick. They got 11 freaking picks to go around, including, oh God, what is it? I just threw it up yesterday. Isn't there 4 or 5, 6 or something like that?
Day 3, that it's like rounds 4 to the rest. And we have a lot. It's like we got picks to throw around. That's why I was saying, like, hey, can we use some of those picks to actually get a player from another team?
Sure.
Because We got a lot, but I understand getting younger at linebacker, but it's just, are you willing to risk it if Trenton doesn't get get to the position that we need this season? Are you willing to risk it with another rookie coming from the draft, or you want another veteran at the position?
Well, yeah, you want your Josh Bynes, right? Because he came in and fortified it, like to your point there, in 2019. I s- How about this? I'm just giving you a gut feel on what I think teams are going to view CJ as. I haven't actually looked at like the projected market value now that he has been released and given how unavailable he was and given his age. So, look, if that's a fit and he's willing to come in and compete, really, I mean that's what's going to happen, right? If regardless of whether or not it's a veteran, okay, if it's a big time veteran, it's going to be a shoe in. It's going to be I'm telling you, man.
Hey, Tila wants a spot on the show.
Well, Tila's got the freaking link. All right, Tila, you and Chris, like Tila and Chris always say they want to come on. They're like flirtatious. That's what they are. They're flirtatious. Tilly does not want CJ. All right. I am telling you that I think I'm going to do a little bit of research and try and project what his market value would be before I make a hard stance. But my gut was telling me they need to get younger at that position. But then you so eloquently took me down memory lane with Josh Bynes. But that was only because, to your point there, PQ was not ready. And I guess that was during the 2020 season, right? Because he was a 2020 draft pick. So,
We got him. Yeah, we got PQ at 20 in 2020. Bynes left for Cincinnati, then came back in
then came back.
2021,
Then came back. Imagine that.
and he still was where Rowe is. It was Bynes and Queen, and Queen was still learning the ropes. He
Yeah.
was not that much of a use,
Yeah.
and we rotated Bynes and Harrison just because Bynes needed a breather.
All right. I'll tell you what. We're going to revisit this CJ topic. I'm glad you brought it up. I'm going to keep the guest lines going, brother. Thanks for popping in.
All right, hey, the stream is not sponsored by water, even though you see water.
Stay hydrated, my friends. Later. Julian's in the house. How was your night shift the other night, my friend?
I'm working on fuels, Bobby. You know how I do, man.
You,
I
you,
get.
you,
I just got in like I'll say like 11, like around 11. So I've been up for a little while. I'll probably take a little nap after I talk to you for a little bit.
all right. Well,
I
that's
ain't even
exactly
having.
why I'm bringing you in here. You're running on fumes, but here's the deal. The Ravens salary cap was running on fumes until a little while ago here. And if you're just tuning in, the breaking news is that a contract restructure has taken place between the team and Marlin. So
Hmm.
his $18 million salary, right, it's going to be reduced to 1.255, which is the league minimum for 2025. Notably and importantly, this is not a pay cut. It's a
Yeah.
restructure and converting that 18 million to a future bonus that will be paid out at 16.745. Okay.
Right.
With the addition of void years, that helps the Ravens be more it helps them monetarily right now in the short term. And so as you can see, that actual number is north of 13.3 million, which goes directly towards 2025 cap space that allows them to do different things right now. So your thoughts are what?
Well, I think that's a really good deal because I didn't realize that we restructured him that much. It was on 13, and I asked Jeff about that on Twitter, and I asked him who was going to be next on the restructuring cycle, and he said this possibility could be Mark Andrews. Roquan could come into play, um, and Matabike, he can get a restructuring as well. So they, I think for them, it's not trying to do too many of that. And then another guy asked me, he was like, "Is what happened to the extension for Marlon?" I said, "Well, that could come next year. Seeing
Right.
how
That does
limited
not take exactly. This does not take that out of the equation.
exactly, and seeing how limited the Ravens are with their money this year, I think they'll probably restructure him next year, and then someone said, "Oh, maybe they can make a big move." I don't see any more moves they can make. I mean, the roster is pretty much set without adding a few more key holes like edge rusher. Obviously, linebackers gotten weaker right now. Inside linebackers, Manny, he was just talking about CJ. I was on board with that, but I'm just still on like his age. You know, he's 32. He's been hurt a couple times. I mean, they could bring him in. I wouldn't hate it. Like I said, it doesn't move the needle. We're not in a needle moving business. We're just trying to win the Super Bowl at this point.
Hey,
So,
how about this? I just want to quickly revisit a wide receiver topic while I have you here. This is interesting. Mike Giardi of an NFL reporter. I see. What is Mike?
oh yeah, I've seen that. I've
What's
seen that.
okay? Boston Sports Journal. Take a look at this.
Yeah.
Per a league source, the Patriots have reached out to Cooper Cup. It's believed the wideout would prefer to stay on the West Coast, but he hasn't closed any doors. Mike follows up on that tweet with a league source tells me Cup's asking price is, quote, insane compared to where he's at this point in his
Mm,
career. So just to revisit the conversations that we've been having in recent days, recent weeks
yeah.
about the veteran wide receiver market,
Mm-hmm.
now you see reason number 1,000 for why the
Mm.
Ravens opted to go in the direction that they did.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, Bobby. You know, I was on the fence of telling you that his price could be a little bit more
Oh yeah.
than what the Ravens are willing to offer him. So they did a good job of not going that route. I mean, if his price was a little bit more favorable, I think they would have done that. But since it's too high and they have limited amount of money right now, they just went with the guy that's going to give them, maybe ask for a lesser, money in DeAndre Hopkins, and they went that route. So I mean, that's a good deal for them.
They went
Um,
that route, and they went a route that doesn't necessarily need him to be the D Hop of old, and they are not paying him to be the D
exactly.
Hop of old. So those are important clarifications here when weighing expectation levels for what you can expect from DeAndre Hopkins as a Raven. He will be 33 this summer,
Hmm.
and anything that he does outside of wide receiver 3 standards, that is
Yeah.
gravy. So, uh, Jewel,
Okay.
appreciate you, brother. Have a great shift tonight. We'll catch up soon.
All right, Bobby. Till next time.
Talk to you. Thank you guys for being with me today. There's over 1,000 of you joining me concurrently across all platforms. Tila, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping daily content here and on the Vault. Dreams hits me with a super chat and says, Charlie Kohler, ISU, TJ Tampa, ISU. And would you look at that? Jaden Higgins is an Iowa State guy. Need him to be drafted and taken under D Hop's wing. Queon has been pushing the Jaden Higgins wide receiver agenda out of Iowa State for a minute now. And now, like I said a minute ago, Dreams, they're starting to be a little bit of a wait a second here. Are they the Hawkeyes? It's Iowa Hawkeyes, right? And it's Iowa State Cyclones. Am I getting that right? Let me just make sure I'm getting this right because sometimes the Iowa team, yeah, okay, I had that right. So all of a sudden, there's this Cyclones contingent forming in Baltimore. Dreams, seen crazier things happen. Jaden's your guy. Keep running it. Didn't have a chance, unfortunately, to look at him when I was in Indy at the combine, but I'm going to be having an eye out coming up next month for the draft. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to pop out of here and get a little late afternoon sun because I'm white as shit. You guys know how that goes. With this skin complexion and going to Clearwater on Saturday for a boat day, I'm going to need all the sun I can get. God bless me. Like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you support my brand sponsors, you're supporting me and this channel and the continued growth of it. Click on the link in the show notes. Click on the link as a pinned comment in the live chat. You'll save $100 on your closing costs, courtesy of my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. You can claim that certificate by clicking on it. Super simple. It's valid for 90 days from the date of receipt. The offer itself ends May 1st of 2025. So get started today. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. Thanks to Manny and Julian for calling in. Thanks to all 1,000 plus of you for hanging out. Sarah and I will be back, of course, in live format tomorrow. DeAndre Hopkins set to meet with the media at 1:30 in the afternoon. So Sarah and I will probably do a 2-hour show tomorrow, just to be clear. So stay on top of that. Maybe who knows? Maybe you'll hear from me before then based on the news cycle. If not, talk to you guys tomorrow. Have an awesome Thursday. Later.